The sun rose over Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. The first light of dawn painted the sky in hues of pink and orange, casting a serene glow over the city. It was a day that began like any other, with the promise of a beautiful summer morning. It was a warm summer morning. The sky was clear, and the air was filled with the gentle warmth of the sun. The city was bathed in a golden light, and everything seemed peaceful and calm. Birds sang in the trees, their melodies creating a symphony of nature. The chirping of the birds was a familiar sound, a comforting background to the start of a new day. People went about their day, engaging in their daily routines. The streets were filled with the hustle and bustle of life, as residents made their way to work, school, and other activities. Children played in the streets, their laughter echoing through the neighborhoods. Shopkeepers opened their stores, preparing for another day of business. Life was simple, ordinary, and full of the small joys that make up everyday existence. No one knew that within hours their world would change forever. The tranquility of the morning masked the impending catastrophe that was about to unfold. The city was waking up, unaware of the B-29 bomber soaring towards them. The aircraft, high above the clouds, was invisible to the naked eye, its presence unknown to those below. It carried a secret weapon, a force of unimaginable destruction. The bomber's mission was shrouded in secrecy, its cargo capable of altering the course of history in an instant. The bomber, named Enola Gay, had flown for hours across the Pacific. Its journey was long and arduous, but its crew was focused, knowing the gravity of their mission. Its target, Hiroshima, a city of 350,000 souls. A vibrant community, full of life and activity, completely unaware of the fate that awaited them. At 8:15 a.m., a small object tumbled from the sky. It descended rapidly, cutting through the air with a silent menace. It fell silently towards the earth. No sirens sounded. The city remained oblivious to the danger that was about to strike. No one suspected a thing. The people of Hiroshima continued with their daily lives, unaware of the impending disaster. The people of Hiroshima went about their lives, blissfully unaware of the impending doom. The streets were busy, filled with the sounds of conversation, laughter, and the everyday activities of a thriving city. This moment of normalcy would be their last. In a matter of seconds, everything would change, and the world would witness the devastating power of the atomic bomb. At 8:16 a.m., the world exploded. It was a moment that would forever change the course of history, a moment that would be etched into the collective memory of humanity. The city of Hiroshima, bustling with life and activity, was about to face an unimaginable catastrophe. A blinding flash engulfed Hiroshima. It was as if a second sun had appeared in the sky, its light so intense that it seemed to erase the very fabric of reality. The sky turned white-hot, the air crackled with unimaginable energy. The sheer power of the explosion was beyond comprehension, a force of nature unleashed by human hands. The bomb, nicknamed Little Boy, detonated 1,900 feet above the city with the force of 15,000 tons of TNT. It was a weapon of unprecedented destructive capability, designed to bring an end to the war but at a terrible cost. Buildings vaporized in an instant. Structures that had stood for decades were reduced to dust and rubble in the blink of an eye. The very landscape of the city was altered in a heartbeat. The ground surged upwards as if the earth itself was screaming. The shockwave rippled through the city, tearing apart everything in its path. It was a scene of utter devastation. A monstrous cloud billowed into the sky, reaching 6 miles high, a terrifying mushroom of fire and ash. The heat was unbearable. It scorched the earth and everything on it, leaving behind a charred wasteland. Thousands died instantly, their shadows seared into walls and pavements, grim reminders of the moment life ceased. These shadows, burned into the surfaces, were the only traces left of those who had been there. Those farther away were thrown through the air, their bodies broken and burned. Survivors were left to grapple with the horror of what had happened, their lives forever changed by the events of that morning. The world went silent. Then, the screams began. The cries of the injured and the dying filled the air, a haunting chorus of pain and despair. Hiroshima had been transformed into a scene of unimaginable horror, a testament to the destructive power of the atomic bomb. The bombing of Hiroshima was the culmination of years of war. It was a moment that would forever change the course of history, leaving an indelible mark on the collective memory of humanity. World War II had ravaged the globe, millions had died, cities lay in ruins, and the world was engulfed in a conflict that seemed to have no end. The scale of destruction was unprecedented, affecting every corner of the globe. Japan, allied with Germany and Italy, had fought fiercely against the United States and its allies. The Axis powers were relentless, and the battles were intense, with each side determined to emerge victorious. The war in the Pacific was particularly brutal. The vast ocean became a battleground, with naval and air forces clashing in fierce combat. Islands turned into fortresses, and every inch of land was contested with ferocity. Both sides suffered heavy losses. Soldiers endured unimaginable hardships, and the civilian population was caught in the crossfire, facing bombings, starvation, and displacement. The United States, seeking a swift end to the conflict, saw a new weapon, a terrifying force of nature, as the answer. The atomic bomb promised a decisive blow that could bring the war to a rapid conclusion. The Manhattan Project, a top-secret American program, had developed the atomic bomb. Scientists from various fields came together working tirelessly in secrecy to harness the power of the atom. The scientists understood its power, its potential for devastation. They knew that this weapon could change the nature of warfare forever, bringing about a new era of destruction. The decision to use it, however, was a political one. Leaders weighed the potential benefits against the moral and ethical implications, knowing that the consequences would be profound. President Truman, facing a long and bloody invasion of Japan, made the fateful call. He believed that the atomic bomb could save countless lives by avoiding a protracted and deadly ground war. He hoped the bomb would force Japan's unconditional surrender. The world watched in horror as the bomb was dropped, and the city of Hiroshima was engulfed in a blinding flash of light, followed by a devastating explosion. The decision to use the atomic bomb remains controversial to this day. Some argue it was a necessary evil, a way to end the war quickly and save lives. Others believe it was a morally reprehensible act, an act of terror that killed innocent civilians. The Potsdam Declaration, an ultimatum issued by the Allies, demanded Japan's surrender. Japan, however, refused to comply. The stage was set for a tragedy. The devastation in Hiroshima was unimaginable. The city lay in ruins. Thousands were dead. Thousands more suffered from burns, radiation sickness, and cancer. The world watched in horror. The atomic age had begun. 3 days later, on August 9, 1945, a second B-29 bomber, Bockscar, took flight. Its target, the city of Nagasaki. This time, the bomb was nicknamed Fat Man. It was even more powerful than Little Boy. At 11:02 a.m., Fat Man detonated over Nagasaki. The explosion, equivalent to 21,000 tons of TNT, ripped through the city. The hills surrounding Nagasaki contained the blast somewhat, but the devastation was still immense. Over 70,000 people died in Nagasaki. Thousands more were injured. The impact of the bombing was felt for generations. 2 cities, 2 bombs, countless lives lost. The world had entered a dangerous new era. The aftermath of the bombings was horrific. Survivors known as hibakusha faced a lifetime of physical and psychological scars. Radiation sickness caused hair loss, nausea, and death. Cancer rates soared. Beyond the physical toll, the psychological impact was profound. Survivors struggled with PTSD, depression, and survivor's guilt. The bombings left an indelible mark on the Japanese psyche. The world grappled with the implications of atomic warfare. The Cold War, a nuclear standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union, cast a long shadow over the world. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki served as a stark warning about the horrors of nuclear weapons. From the ashes of destruction, Hiroshima and Nagasaki began the long process of rebuilding. It was a slow and painful journey. But the spirit of these cities, the resilience of the Japanese people, shone through. Today, Hiroshima and Nagasaki are thriving cities. They stand as symbols of peace and reconciliation. They remind us of the human cost of war and the urgent need for diplomacy and understanding. Memorials and museums in both cities commemorate the victims and educate visitors about the horrors of nuclear war. They serve as powerful reminders of the importance of peace. The legacy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is complex. The bombings were acts of war, but they also marked a turning point in human history. They ushered in the nuclear age, an age of both peril and promise. The bombings also sparked a global movement for peace and disarmament. Organizations like the United Nations worked tirelessly to prevent nuclear proliferation and promote dialogue between nations. The International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, or ICAN, won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2017 for its efforts to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons. The lessons of Hiroshima and Nagasaki must never be forgotten. We have a responsibility to learn from the past and work towards a more peaceful future. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of war. They challenge us to imagine a world without conflict, a world where diplomacy and understanding prevail. Achieving lasting peace requires a collective effort. We must teach future generations about the horrors of war and the importance of empathy and compassion. The path to peace is not easy, but it is a path we must take. The future of humanity depends on it. Let us honor the memory of those lost in Hiroshima and Nagasaki by working tirelessly for a world free from war.